notification and you'll be able to share it out with anyone who wasn't able to join today, right? And it'll be available to you all as we move through. Welcome, Julie. So glad to see you. I think your audio is just getting connected. Hey, Julie, thanks for being here. We just shared a little bit about ourselves, what we teach, what brought us here. If you want to do the same, feel free, chat or unmute, whatever's going to work best for you. And then we'll jump into the heart of the session, dig into the content.
Julie Fitzgerald, obviously, Milford, Woodland, fourth grade, ELS, and regular ed.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Can I just say that Julie is a rock star? She and Celeste both are super interested in finding tools that will support their students and finding out how to use them in the best way possible. So they are really dedicated to sessions like this and the stuff we did over the summer and all the PD that we have, and they ask questions and they really want to find ways to get things to work really, really well for their students. So thank you, both of you ladies, for being here.
No, I'm just a hot mess with this. So.
No, you're fine.
Julie,
You're
I'm
fine.
right there with you.
Both can be true. Both can be true.
I love that comment. I'm a hot mess as well.
Oh man, you all are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Julie, your colleagues shared with me that things are shifting back to remote for you all on Monday. So I can only imagine the amount that's on your plate and on your minds. Thank you for dedicating some time to this. Know it's going to be recorded. You can revisit it as you need. And especially since we're a smaller group, let's make this work for you all. At any point, feel free to unmute if you want to pause me and ask a question. If you want to share out a connection to what you've tried, surface any like sticking points, please do. I want to make this work for you. Also, Celeste, I really heard you when you said like, I need time to dig into these things. So let me embed that time into our session, right? Let me make sure you have time when and where you need it to explore, to practice, to apply. Also, I just want to make sure I give you the right bits of information. So though you've shared most of the information that I want and need to help customize, I may just ask you to give me a little background on your Newsela experience as we move through. Just let me know like how you've used it, what you found value in, so that I can build upon that as opposed to like make a big jump or review too much. Our session today is like so well situated. I mean, for this school year period, but for the realities of Monday, because it's designed to look at how to use Newsela to support flexible learning for both live, virtual instruction, and those approaches could certainly transfer to in-person when that's a reality again, and also to support asynchronous learning. So that'll be our lens. And then we'll adapt and adjust based on questions that come up, as well as just feedback that you all give. My name is Alice. Hey, everyone. I'm a professional learning manager with Newsela. So this is my work, connecting with educators like yourselves, now kind of exclusively through Zoom, to look at how to use Newsela in alignment with your instructional priorities, ultimately, of course, in service of your students. I'm a former fourth grade educator. I taught fourth grade in Northern California for 6 years before joining Newsela. And for me, I use Newsela in the classroom mostly as a tool to help connect students to topics that they were curious about, give them a space in which they could learn more about what was happening in the world around them and engage, right? Celeste, I heard that in what you shared, right? Looking for those ways to really engage and connect to students. So that'll be part of our lens and focus. That is my contact info on the screen, but I'm also just going to drop the link to a Google Doc agenda in the chat. Boom. My info's on there. There's quick links to resources. I'll add to it as we move through. So if you all ask about certain things or share certain things, I'll drop them on there so that they're not kind of lost in the chat. Before we just dig right in, go ahead and feel free to let me know. Again, unmute and share it out or drop it in the chat about your Newsela experience, right? How have you used it before? What's worked, what hasn't? That'll help just drive where we spend our buckets of time, and when we build in those opportunities to explore and practice. Just share with me a little bit about your Newsela experience.
Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
I've used Newsela, I think like 3 years now.
Amazing.
I have just this fall realized that there was a reading assessment or a reading leveling tool attached to Newsela. I was a little late to the party on that, but used that this fall. The last 2 years, I've used it for nonfiction text and nonfiction text features. And I do a opinion piece. And last year I used all Newsela articles on technology, either for supporting technology or too much technology. And so I pulled, I think 5 or 6 articles, like 3 for and 3 against, and the kids read them and sorted through them. And
Love that.
but I'm not using it on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. I hear that. Thank you.
I've used Newsela with my 7th graders last year on a character development unit. And we looked at citizenship as a trait. I would like them to understand what it actually means. And so they would read articles that they found or that I provided them. It's been a year, so my brain's a little foggy. And they had to respond in a Google slide to explain. And we created a kind of carousel walk via Google Slides.
Love it.
So that they could learn about kids in 2019 or 2018, I can't remember, all the good things that they've done. Like, what is the character out of the 6 pillars of character? They had to find an article and talk about and create a slide to educate their peers on, you know, fairness or trustworthiness or citizenship. And it was quite cool. So,
Yeah,
but
that's really.
I don't use it as much as I should. And so I'm back here to revisit how to use it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the connection between Newsela and another tool for student response and creation, right? Whether it's Google Slides, whether it's the opinion writing project, you all are already connecting to something that I think is so important, which is bridging the purpose for your Newsela usage with your instructional expertise and what else is happening in your classroom, right? So that it's not a Newsela is for this like reading and quizzing, but it's Newsela is part of this larger project that we're doing in which students are really actively engaged. So that's awesome to hear. Thanks for sharing that.
So Alice, my involvement has been very little, in sort of jumping on what Celeste just said. There hasn't been a big demand in our building for Newsela, so I'm embarrassed to say I don't know a lot about it. I did a little bit last year on it. I'm getting people in. What little I saw, I loved, but I have not been using it. I have not had a demand to go help teachers with it.
Got it.
What I have found out, and I'm sure Sarah could probably back me on this, is what Sarah and I push, people then jump on board and start to use it. And if we're not marketing it and pushing it, nobody's using it too much.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that 100%. You all are like trusted advisors. I already heard that just from Celeste at the start, right? And so when you endorse something, people are like, I need to invest time. I also totally recognize you have a lot on your plates, right? So no embarrassment, no like, I don't really know that much about Newsela. You got lots of resources, you got lots of things that are pulling for your attention. So we'll use this time to get you the info that you need to feel like when my teachers ask me or when I'm looking to share this out, I have what I need to feel like I can do that in a way that's going to support them.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and Sarah already shared like Newsela certified educator, so amazing. This is how I have our time organized, though we'll flex based on feedback you give as we move through. We'll start just with an orientation to Newsela in terms of like Celeste, what you shared, and Julie, what you shared. I think this is the part you feel really confident with. I'll just give a few shout outs for the recording and also because maybe there's some resources that I can highlight that you just haven't had an opportunity to check out. You all can let me know if you want some time then to explore content or if you're ready to keep moving. And when we keep moving, we're going to dig into an experience together. It's just going to be kind of a model for what it could look like to engage students both live, virtually, and asynchronously around a piece of Newsela content. And you all are already adding like additional layers to this that we can kind of chat through. From there, we can just pull back the curtain a little bit, look at some other resources and features. I think specifically like assignment tracking and data tracking will be of value with Monday just ahead and needing to be able to check on what students are doing and how they're doing. Celeste, then we can certainly dig into using Newsela and Google Classroom as well. I saw your note about like wanting to feel confident about that connection. And then we'll give time for you to ask questions, for you to practice, for you to just spend with some of the resources that we check out together. Again, we're a small group. Let's make this work for us. Unmute, pause me, use the chat, drop questions, connections, whatever is going to support your experience and help this feel like it's designed for you. Please feel invited and empowered to do so. This session is focused on flexible learning, right? Because remote learning is a part of our reality for this school year, whether it is a temporary fallback option, right, for when we need it, whether it is a continued option for some students throughout the course of the school year. And we know that in order for it to work, we have to rely on students to both maintain their own motivation and to have the capacity to navigate the learning resources that we offer them more independently than maybe they ever have before. So those are our two areas of focus as we move through these resources, right? How can we support student engagement so that we connect to motivation, so that they're invested in the learning task? And then how can we set them up to be successful as they're navigating those asynchronous learning components? We'll start just by digging into like what Newsela is, quick shout outs to how you can find content, and then like you all will add just based on what you've checked out. First and foremost, at Newsela, we call ourselves an instructional content platform. For us, that looks like providing classrooms high quality, authentic content that helps students better engage in the world around them, right? Nonfiction texts on Newsela are published at up to 5 reading levels. Julie, you shared out a little bit about how you got student reading levels set, and we can look at those resources together. That's to really offer different entry points for different learners to engage in the same information, discussion, but based on a level of text that's right for them as an individual. The way in which Newsela learns about students' reading skills is through embedded article activities, formative assessments, quizzes, write prompts. You all also have access to Power Words, a vocabulary practice tool. And the ELA quizzes help drive automatic differentiation, meaning you assign a text to students or the teachers that you support to, and we open it or present it to different students at different levels, depending on their quiz performance. And texts like this one, we actually get to dig into this text. Celeste, I think it kind of connects to your area of focus. It's just one example, right? But texts like this one, the importance of human connection on our physical health, are organized in different ways. So let's go ahead and dig in to how they're organized on Newsela. If you haven't logged in a few weeks, maybe even a little bit more, I guess it's been like 2 or 3, Newsela has a new look. Same content, right? Same things you know and trust, just organized a little bit differently, hopefully to make it easier for you to find what you're looking for and just surface some of what's available on Newsela that maybe you didn't know to look for in the past. So when you all log into Newsela using that Google single sign-on button, same way that students will log in, you'll be brought to your homepage. Great place to scroll through just to gain inspiration. see what's recently published, what's featured, what's popular. I always love checking out that section just to be like, what are people reading? And you can also use this left-hand navigation menu to click to different categories. The homepage is really going to surface cross-curricular content from across the site, and it's just going to organize it into different categories. Some things to check out here. Maybe you didn't know we're on Newsela in the past. Fiction content. We have hundreds of fiction texts available to you and your educators. These are published at the original level only. They're not published at adapted versions in order to maintain the author's craft. Can be a great way to just engage students around a topic with a different genre, help them make connections between fiction and nonfiction. You'll also see multimedia content here. I'm super stoked off our multimedia content. You'll find things for science, for social studies, for health, infographics, diagrams, even things like maps. Multimedia we'll find in the social studies section too, but on the homepage, you can already start to see some science infographics and diagrams here. Can just be a content type you didn't know to look for in the past. Yeah.
Could I ask a question about the infographics?
Sure.
I was just wondering, is that examples of them or how to create them? Because I did a career exploration project with my 8th grade students because I want them to start thinking of jobs and careers in their future someday.
Yeah.
And I exposed them to what an infographic is, and I tried to teach them how to go about it, and I gave them resources out there. So I was just wondering.
Yeah. What's organized in the multimedia categories, they are infographics, right? They're scientific diagrams, multimedia, or infographics. They're not explainer texts on how to create an infographic. So we could search. I'm not actually sure if we have an explainer text on infographics. It's possible. But these could be mentors for students, right? Like, here's how information about this science concept, balancing forces, is represented. You'll also in social studies find one that's on like the role of government. And so a different form of an infographic that students could use as a mentor for sure. Great question. All right. Homepage, first stop. 2 other main ways to find content. Use the browse menu, use the search button. When educators, when you all feel confident with Newsela, search is what you'll use probably most often, right? I might type in that topic, human connection, which is our focus for the experience that we get to dig into. Click search. Newsela is going to bring up individual articles related to my search term. This does allow me to filter based on the students that I support, right? Or the students that your teachers support. Meaning I can make sure I'm only looking at text available at the level that I need. It will be available at other levels too, but this is just ensuring like this content is going to be available at a 6th grade text level, which is going to support my learners. You'll find lots of other filters here, including reading skills filters, which align with the ELA quiz questions. Suggested for is great for maturity level. This is really powerful for elementary classrooms, right? Making sure that the text is on a subject matter and requires a level of background knowledge that's appropriate for our youngest readers. In the more filters category, you'll find a whole wide world of filters. Come here when you are like feeling confident and good and ready for more, because you could scroll through here for a bit. But you can filter for content available in Spanish if that's of use to you. We have about 20% of our texts available, both English and Spanish, multiple reading levels, each language. Anytime you click filters, just hit apply and it'll anytime you select a filter, hit apply and it'll resort your search. This is great for individual texts, right? Single readings. But if you click over to text sets, you'll find groupings of articles, multiple related readings. This connects to like 2 things that you all shared out. Celeste, I could see you looking for a text set on careers, right? We have a series of articles that are like dream jobs. You could find a text set already created, I'm so confident, around careers and career education. And it would be this automatically grouped set of texts on the topic that matters. Julie, what you shared for opinion texts, right? Maybe you created a text set, maybe you found one, but looking for those opinions, we actually have a series of texts. Let me know if you checked these out They're student opinion articles. So they're written by students and submitted to Newsela, which is just like so cool.
No, cool.
Yeah. You can find it by searching a text set with them grouped, or in the article section, you'll find all the student opinions first. Really authentic mentors.
I used the text sets and then added a couple of other things to it.
Love it.
But it just made it awfully easy.
Yes, totally. And I love to hear you say that. I'm so glad that that holds true. And it also like gets to be this living, breathing thing. So next time you do it, if you are like, oh, I want to add a student opinion, you're able to adjust and adapt it.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. Okay, this gets us through search. Last shout outs for finding content in the browse drop-down menu. This probably looks different than it did at the beginning of the school year. Definitely looks different than last year. From the browse drop-down menu, you'll find content segmented by subject area, as well as election 2020 content, news content, and content available in Spanish, just organized all in one place. Yeah.
Are they looking at other languages for Newsela? I was just curious.
It's a great question. I don't know of any active plans to expand language offerings, though it's something teachers surface all the time. Right now, just Spanish and English content available. From the subject areas, we're just going to peek at these together. You can click into social studies, science, or ELA, and you'll be brought to subject-specific homepage. On the science page, really like you can dig into texts that are relevant based on topic, based on maybe project that you want to do. Celeste, I could see in the opinion article section, finding a lot of things related to health, wellness, that could engage students, right? In active reading, argumentation, could connect to some of the projects like your Google Slide activities that really put them in the driver's seat of their own learning. Another really cool area to check out, maybe we'll even find some things that Sarah created here. In social studies, in ELA and science, you'll find a category that's text sets by teachers. These are like those text sets that we peeked at, groupings of articles, but these are created by our Newsela certified educators, created as a part of the certification, submitted to Newsela, approved, published, right, as a part of their performance task. What makes these so valuable is it goes beyond a grouping of texts, right? If I scroll down, I'll find here it's 5 texts grouped together. This is around like climate change and COVID. So I find the text, but our NCEs, our Newsela certified educators, add all these additional instructional layers about like how I might implement this in my classroom, some ideas about how to connect it with other platforms like Flipgrid or other websites, and then even like standards and subject area connections.
Am I okay to ask?
Oh yeah, of course.
Can I give, and this may be a really silly question, but can I give my students access to do their searching? Like if I were doing the citizen project and character development, I want them to find the articles that reached their heart and being able to then summarize it and share it with other students versus me. I mean, I can, I guess, go and compile an entire, 20 whatever articles for them, and then they get to choose. May I ask that detailed kind of how to?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that lens, especially when thinking about engagement and student agency, right? Getting them to make the text selection super powerful. Students can search and browse in the same way that you do. So they have a search button up at the top. They can click, type in keywords, right? So you may use it as a way to like instructionalize the searching, help them identify those keywords or strategies for finding content based on the project, but they can search, they can browse. They're not able to create their own text set on the Newsela website, but I have seen teachers in the past, like they have students submit articles to them that then the educator compiles in a text set. And it's like a class text set of all of our resources. That's of course like an optional step. You can decide if you want to invest in that or not. But if the goal is like have students choose text, engage with them, use it for their project, absolutely. They can search and browse. Couple more quick hits of content, and then I'll check in. You all can let me know if you want some time to explore, if you're ready to keep rocking and rolling. In the social studies tab, you'll find it under the browse drop-down menu, right? Check out some different categories, primary sources. Man, these just resonate with me so much. What's unique about them on Newsela is they're published at up to 5 reading levels. So for social studies educators that you're engaging with, or if you're just looking to support students in connecting with the ways in which ideas have been expressed over time, each of these are published at the original level. So you have the primary source, but then they're also published. I'll just open one up so you can see it. They're also published at the adapted levels as well. So they're available at up to 5 reading levels, so that students can access the ideas, they can access the content, they can feel like it's a learning activity for them. Maybe they start with a lower level and just build their own background knowledge and then read up, or the reverse. You do a really guided engagement with the original version of the speech. They can engage with an adapted version at a level that more closely aligns with their independent reading levels. That's something cool to check out in social studies. And then my last hit here, although you'll find things like text sets and opinion articles in social studies too, is that multimedia category. What's unique about multimedia within social studies is you'll find things like maps, right? Even photographs, artifacts sometimes. So it's just a really engaging content type to check out, especially when you're looking to get students analyzing, making connections between multiple sources. Oh, Nancy, great question about Google Classroom. Yes. If we're thinking about using Newsela with Google Classroom, 2 options. You can share content. On every text and text set, you'll find a share button. Click it, and you could just post the link to Google Classroom. If it's an optional activity, if it's an extra activity, that can be a really great way to do it, right? Share the link to Google Classroom. Students can choose if they engage with it. If it's an assignment, something all students are going to be spending time with, interacting with, teachers may instead create an assignment, which we can look at from a more instructional lens, but from a technical side, you click assign, you choose your classes. These can be synced, right? Google Classes can be synced to Newsela, which we can look at. Teachers can add instructions, really build this out. Students will see all those instructions in Newsela. Assign it. This is like making it easy for students to connect with a specific text or text set with instructions that guide them through expectations, strategies, options that they have. Really powerful for asynchronous learning. Once you've created an assignment in Newsela, click the share arrow, share the assignment to Google Classroom. It's really just posting the link. But once you've assigned it in Newsela, it makes the data tracking component much easier and more streamlined for educators. So you're just sharing the link to Google Classroom, students click it, do all the reading and activity on Newsela, right? Whether they read, quiz, annotate, whatever it may be. But it makes it so we can view all student activity in the same place, the assignments tab of our binder. We'll dig more into this as we kind of go through the scope of creating an assignment, but it's just going to make it so I can see activity in one space. So I know what they're doing, how they're doing, and I can connect with it, right? Respond to annotations that they leave if I want or need to, even review right responses that they submit. Yeah.
So a student could copy an article, paste it into, like, say, a generic assignment that I've started, and then utilize that document maybe in the preparation of the project. Is that correct? Or not?
Yeah, that's a great, I love your thinking there. So students could choose the article, they could grab the link. They wouldn't share it with you on Newsela, but they could put it on Google Classroom.
And
exactly.
attach that link. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, 100%. Okay, I have one more content space to connect us to, and it's actually the most robust, and it's in the ELA space, right? You have complete access to content on Newsela, right? Relevant to all subject areas. You can always search for what you're looking for. When you're looking for project, lesson resources, come to Newsela ELA. Here you'll find not just texts, but like ready to go lessons, even project resources. Use the left-hand navigation menu to click explore what you're looking for. You'll find standards and skill aligned content to support students with nonfiction and fiction reading skills. Julie, this makes me think of something that you shared. They're organized by elementary and secondary. Julie, you shouted out the reading skills check collection to help jumpstart Newsela's understanding of students' reading skills. That lives in the review standards and skills collection too. Remember, Newsela's adaptive. As students read, take the ELA quizzes, we use their quiz performance to generate recommended reading level. It takes us 6 to 8 quizzes for an individual student to have an accurate recommended reading level set. The reading skills check collection can help us get that information more quickly. So Steve, if you have educators asking for like, how do I get started? This may be the first place you take them to or direct them to. It's going to be texts on all kinds of different topics, organized by grade band. Each grade section has 9 texts with longer quizzes, as opposed to the 4-question quiz that you'll find on other texts. Here, these have 8 questions, meaning that students just need to read 3 and take those quizzes for us to have accurate individual reading levels set that allow us to do that automatic differentiation.
Alice, and that information can pass through Google Classroom also if the kids took a quiz, so the teacher will understand at what level or where these kids are at, like a mark?
That's a great question. The quiz scores do not push back to Google Classroom. Teachers can track all that information within Newsela. The assignments tab is where they'll go to see individual activity on articles they've assigned.
Okay.
The reading summary tab of the binder is where they'll go to see overall reading progress. We have some great resources I'll make sure I grab and drop on the agenda that will you can just share them with teachers when they're like, how can I find information about my students' reading levels? But it's not going to push back to Google Classroom. All the reading activity data lives with Newsela. Just students will be able to access it through Google Classroom by clicking on those links that are shared.
Beautiful, thanks.
Yeah, great question. And then Sarah, I see your note. Oh, or your tip, absolutely, yeah. Until reading levels are set for students, they can manually adjust. They can move the reading level of a text up or down. Like that Martin Luther King speech we were on previously. It's in one of my many tabs. Up at the top, there's the reading level bar. Students can adjust that in the meantime. Educators could direct them, right? Like if the version of the text is too challenging, right? If the first paragraph, there are like more than 5 words you don't know, you can adjust it down. Educators also have the option to assign like just 1 level to the whole class when they're creating an assignment.
We have, just for like an instructional tip, we have 5th grade teachers who use Newsela frequently. And what they do is before they get through their first 6 to 8 quizzes, they kind of have their reading groups. So she'll say like the Celtics reading group, you guys are reading it on 840 level, and
Love
the Red
it.
Sox group, you're reading it on this level, so that they don't feel pigeonholed, but they feel like the level aligns with their reading groups, so that
Totally.
it kind of works better for the whole class.
I love that. Yeah, I love that idea, especially at the start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful to have students see that as a tool as opposed to like a toy or something to like get the easiest version of the text, connecting it to like what's going to support your learning experience, what's going to feel like your other learning experiences in your reading groups. That's a great strategy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. I think we go ahead and let me know what we're feeling, what would help us right now. Do you want some time just to explore? Do you feel like, yeah, I'm confident with finding content, I'm ready to go a layer deeper?
I feel pretty good that you can keep on going. I get the whole search thing. It seems pretty straightforward so far to me.
I agree with Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Celeste and Julie. I know you both shared at the start, right? That was a part that you had already spent some time with. All right, let's keep rocking and rolling. So when we feel good about content, when we know how to find the resources that we're looking for, now it's about like, what does it look like to use these instructionally, especially in remote learning setting, right? How can I make use of this during our synchronous learning time and our asynchronous learning time? So our experience is going to help us connect to that, right? We're just going to peek around that one text, the importance of social connection to humans, how we might engage students during live synchronous learning, how we might set them up for success and offer support during semi-synchronous learning, where they may be working independently, but still with access to us, like in a Zoom meeting or a Google Hangout or whatever, right? So they have an independent task, but they can ask questions, and then how to move that towards asynchronous. So we'll just look at ideas for making Newsela a part of this work, because I totally recognize this is a part of the work you have been doing since last spring, right? And maybe even before. So we'll start with this text. This is just an example of a text that you might find on Newsela. It just helps to connect to our current realities, right? Where we are physical distancing from each other, but we're still craving that social connection. It helps offer kind of a social emotional learning lens. We can also have a skill focus here. Swap out the skill focus for what matters to you, or encourage your educators to do so. For us, we're gonna focus on a metacognitive strategy. Connect, extend, challenge. Something that will be easy for us to support students around during our semi-synchronous and synchronous learning, and something that can help them attend to their own understanding when they're learning asynchronously, right? Constantly checking in their prior knowledge with new knowledge being presented in the text. Okay, let's start with launching learning live. This is one example of how we might try to just make it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun. Before we ever get to the text, I'm excited, Celeste and Julie, just to hear a little bit about maybe how you're doing this too, but we can hook students, we can invest them before they get to the Newsela learning task. And that can happen just based on your larger projects, whatever it may be. When thinking about a virtual learning session or setting like this, might capitalize on some tools. We are in Zoom, so we have a few tools that we can use to react. I might start just by introducing students to the topic, right? Here we're focused on this question, why is social connection important to humans? I have a list of ideas that I think might connect to students' prior knowledge that also lead them towards that text. I'm going to have them react to the list. Which of these are reasons why social connection is important to humans? We're in Zoom, so you all can actually do this. You can use the reactions tool if you see it in your Zoom toolbar. It doesn't show up for everybody, so if it doesn't, I'm so sorry. But it just allows you to give like an emoji reaction. If you see it, test it out. It's super fun. Otherwise, you have your cameras on, so just like use a real life thumb if you hear something that connects. Yes, emoji reactions, or drop it in the chat. Okay, so listen to the list. When you hear things that you're like, yes, that's a reason social connection is important, react. Improved happiness. More self-confidence. Less stress. Sense of safety. Fewer colds. I have to like give enough time for your reaction to go away and then come back up. Longer life. Better health. Thank you for like figuring out how to change the emoji reactions, because that like helped me see, oh, we're switching. It's not just a lingering emoji reaction from before. Awesome. Think about what stood out to you from the list. What would stand out to your students, right? What questions or contradictions might already be lingering in their minds? This is just one example of how we could kind of activate them for the learning task, right? For the reading that they're going to be doing. From there, we might move them to the text. But before we do the reading, we can have them gather some information that's presented in the title, in the image, in the caption. Work I know you're doing outside of Newsela, maybe you're doing it with Newsela text too. With that list in mind, take a moment, read the headline, observe the image. Think about how it connects or extends to the previous list.
How would they know what you already said? You know, like how do they know about that list that we just put thumbs up or bravo hands?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. So the list is separate from Newsela. That's a part of like my instructional approach. So if you want, you're saying like, how could they revisit the list? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could have it on Google Classroom. We could really simplify it, right? I could have just had 3 categories there, things like health, things like happiness, things like safety, right? And students could have identified one of them. I could have used a poll. That was just an instructional idea. So there's no connection to Newsela yet, except for that it's readying us for the topic. The list isn't in Newsela. I would have to post it somewhere for students to see.
Is this observe and interpret purple box in Newsela that the kids would be typing? I'm just confused. If I were the student and you're the teacher, am I seeing this? Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. So this is my Google slide presentation. So I've taken a screenshot of the Newsela text and I've just organized it for our experience, for our reflection purposes here. This is the lesson segment. If this was you and your students, this purple box doesn't live in Newsela. However,
I
what
like
you like it. Yeah, I know. It's just a Google slide. And you already shared like Google Slides are a part of your toolkit. So you could, human, come on, Alice, get it together. You could replicate something similar, but in terms of the Newsela aspects of this is the text that I'm using for this instructional sequence or this instructional example. It's not even a sequence, but a tool that you might use to do something similar is the present tool. Present mode is available on every text. Click it. It's going to simplify the teacher view of your screen. Take away all that sidebar, take away the correct answers on the quiz questions, makes it easy for you to share your screen in a virtual meeting like this and to use it instructionally. So what I could do instead is just change the screen size, zoom in or zoom out so that only the amount of text that I want students to see is up, right? Now I have that same view, title, image, caption. With my class, I could give them some think time, right? Take this in, observe what connections do you see to our previous list, or just have them be like, what do you notice? What questions come up? From the instructional side, you could have them unmute and share those out. You could have them drop it in the chat. If you're using any like lesson guides for students, like a Google Doc or whatever it might be, you could have them type it in. That observe box though isn't a Newsela feature.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
a great question. Yeah.
So what I have done is use Padlet. And so
idea.
then like with those questions, just have everybody pop into your Padlet that's posted right on your Google slide. And then you can just kind of read them as kids type them in.
Julie, do you have the article and like in one slide and the Padlet in the next slide, or where is your article as compared to your Padlet connection?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. I've been trying to use some Epic and try to get everybody good with Epic, and because I want everybody to have access to novels while we're out. And so, you know, like we've been doing some brainstorming. So the link is there and the Padlet link is on the same slide.
Okay. Okay.
And there's probably a better way to do it, but that was.
I'm just trying to understand. This is the piece that I get stuck with. I see this, I get this, but then making it a reality in my classroom when I'm going to be now, it'd be great if I could just throw it up on a screen and talk to my students, but now it's going to be a Zoom. So it's like, okay, I've got to be able to show the article And some of these kids are not really great about just dragging your screen over here and splitting your screen in the middle. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and you could spend 15 minutes having one child, and they don't mean to, but they derail. And so you're teaching them how to split their screen. And so what I'm trying to just is visualize showing them this picture in this article. I will use this one, believe it or not, because I'm teaching self-concept and human connection in 7th grade. This is like heaven to me. But I love the Padlet. I've used it. I don't know how to do it both now with my students, if that even makes any sense.
So Celeste, probably the easiest thing to do is if you're going to do this synchronously with them on Zoom, you would want to, you be talking, do not screen share, okay? Have them open up a Google slide or Google Classroom rather, I'm sorry, Google Classroom. Have your Newsela assignment in there and also have a link to the Padlet in the same Google Classroom assignment. And they'll click on both. And then they can use the control button on their Chromebook and then the square bracket, not the regular parentheses, but the square bracket. If they hold down control and one of the square brackets, it sends one window to one side, and then they click on the other window and hold down control in the other bracket, it sends that window to the other side. So they don't need to see you, they just need to hear you. And on their screen, they can look at the Padlet and the Newsela at the same time.
That is awesome.
So control and the square brackets will send it left or right. So they just need to click on one, control, and then one of the brackets, click on the other one, control, and the other bracket, and it'll send it to two opposite sides and they meet in the middle.
And that's actually better than what I'm doing, because then you can split the screen. If I put them both links on one slide, they can't have them both open at the same time.
Right. So they do need to have it in separate windows. Like they would open one, and then when it comes, you know, when it comes up on the same tabs, they can click on the tab and pull it out to make it a separate window. They would need separate windows and then go over and do it side to side.
And to do those separate windows, like you said, is the control bracket one way, control bracket the other way?
Yep. The square bracket. Yep. So it's right above the apostrophe.
And so they would be touching Newsela, and then they go touch Padlet to do that control brackets.
Yep.
That's like heaven. Thank you.
No problem.
This is Alice, honestly, that is the link I keep missing sometimes in some of the learning I'm doing. It's not the content is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. And thank you for surfacing it. And Julie, thank you for thought partnering around it. And Sarah, thank you for thought partnering around it too. And in terms of like all of this is optional, right? All of this gets to flex based on what's going to work for you and your students. The only like reflection that I would have here is what it looks like to ready them before they get to the content. So you can do that in just a low stakes conversational way in your virtual meeting. You can do that with Padlet and image observation, whatever is going to work in terms of implementing, choose that. The goal is just activate them for the text, get them ready to engage. I then might think about, while you're sharing that time and space together, right? How are you giving them opportunities to apply your skill focus, your strategy, while they're still able to ask questions? If your focus is image analysis, that Padlet and Newsela text idea is amazing. Swap out image analysis if that's not your focus, right? This image doesn't offer a ton for students to engage with. For me, the title just connects to our list, which surface things that feel like a contradiction to our current realities, that social connection is important to our immune system, our physical health, right? Like that's the opposite of what students are hearing in their worlds. So change out that focus. It doesn't have to be the image. A tool to just keep in your back pocket and your mind, either for readying this reading before your students ever get it, or for modeling this if and when you're sharing your screen, or if you're creating like a video for students, whatever it may be. Annotations. Teachers and students can annotate Newsela texts, click and drag over part of it. Here, this is talking about psychologists being worried about long-term health effects of social distancing. That's one of those points of contradiction that I would be super interested to engage students around. Click and drag, choose a highlight color, And then you can write something in the margin. How does this connect to or challenge what you know about social distancing? From the educator side, click the share button. It's going to make your highlight, your note visible to students on this level of the text. If I change the reading level up or down, my annotation does not pull over because the text changes, right? So that's an important thing to know when readying the text for your students before they ever get it, before you assign it. Think about where you want to add those pause points, those support points. That could even be a part of your synchronous learning, right? If you've added one annotation, that could be the focus for your Padlet activity or for your response task, whatever it may be. That's from the educator side, right? To make it visible to students, but also know students can annotate text independently. It's automatically shared with you and it's not visible to any other students. So you can go in preload with some annotations, but you can also give students instructions for how you want them to annotate the text. That may be best suited for asynchronous when they can take the time that they want and need with the reading, right? Personalize, use that for that personalized practice. But during your semi-synchronous, where they're practicing, but they can still ask questions of you, whether it's just office hours or your Google Meet live sessions, you might have them apply annotation strategies or color codes to just a section of text, right? First 3 paragraphs, we're all zooming in, either digging into our content focus or digging into our skill focus. When we're almost out of time, so I want to make sure we dig into like the parts, the finishing a sequence, right? All of this so far has been synchronous or semi-synchronous. Yeah, Steve.
Just one question. If a student annotates an article, can they take that annotated article and turn it back in through Google Classroom through a screenshot, share?
Yeah, great question. Students could certainly screenshot and submit a screenshot in Google Classroom if the educator wanted them to. They could mark it as complete on Google Classroom as well. And then that would be the educator's signal that like there's info for them to track in Newsela. To see student annotations though, if that's the goal, just like being able to see those, the student doesn't have to take a screenshot. Teachers can view their students' annotations in the assignments tab of the binder. So as long as that text has been assigned to their class,
okay,
they can go back to the assignment, right? I'll open one of these that says it has 20 student views. Click to the assignment.
The reason why I ask is we are primarily Google Classroom based. So most of the teachers are using Google Classroom, and it would be extremely beneficial to have that interactivity between Google Classroom and Newsela.
Totally. Yeah, I hear that. There's not going to be a way for teachers to see their students' Newsela articles in Google Classroom. If having visibility into like a section of text, a specific annotation in Google Classroom is a priority, students would have to screenshot and put that screenshot in there. But if they instead just mark it as complete in Google Classroom, so then educators know to go to Newsela to check out activity, what they will be able to see, here I have the whole class I assigned it to, when they viewed it, how long they spent, the level of text they viewed, performance on the quiz. If they submitted the right response, I'll see that it's ready for me to score. And then if I click to a student's name like Todd, it's like I can look at their version of the text. So here now I'm able to see Todd's version of the article. Any place that Todd has annotated, I can see it and reply to it. If I want to see how Todd answered each quiz question, I can view Todd's version of the quiz. And same with the right prompt. I can click to the right prompt, view Todd's response, even give a rubric score of 1 to 4. Celeste, question? Yeah.
Just a quick question. The annotation, could you use that as a check for each student understanding? So if you wanted them to understand something about the text and you posed that question before about how do you find the connection in the child's book.
Yeah.
If I wanted to check that, you know, with 3 different questions that these kids read it and they're coming away with an understanding, could I use the annotation and do I get to see what they answered? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Your annotation questions can be scaffolds, they can be discussion prompts, they can be check for understanding questions, especially with text-based questions, right? Text-based analysis, text-dependent questions. Annotations can be a great way to embed those. You will see what students write. These are auto-generated, so it just says annotation. But if your student wrote something there, you'd see it. And
That's
if it
what I
was
wondering, thank you.
perfect, yep. And if it was your annotation first, you'll see their reply underneath. You will only be able to see one student response at a time. To now see another student, I click under that student's name. So you won't see like all their responses threaded in one space. It's individual versions of the article. We are at the end of our time. If you need to hop to your next meeting, your next session, please feel free to do so. Don't feel stuck in the Zoom meeting. Sarah, I see your questions. Students don't get a notification necessarily. It's not like pushed out to them that a teacher has replied to an annotation or returned their right response. Students do have a binder in which they can check if things have been returned for revision. But otherwise they would go back to the text and they can see it, but it's not like notified to them within Newsela. I wonder if Google Classroom would be a better mechanism for teachers and students to like have that check-in procedure, right? Like either a comment that says like, hey, I've reviewed your right responses, go back and check, or what have you. Maybe it'll be a part of synchronous learning. They can view it in Newsela, but they won't get like a pushed notification. After today, questions come up, you're looking for resources, check out the Educator Center. You can view our support site for like step-by-step how-to articles. You can also connect with our support team. If anything comes up, don't hesitate to reach out to me via email. But if it's an immediate need, like I'm with my students right now and I need help solving this problem, our support team is available for live chat 8 to 6 East Coast hours. So good for you all. So if you have like an issue that fast response, use the support site, click this Let's Chat button, connect with live help. Steve, for your work, and Sarah, for your continued work, checking out the professional learning page might be great when you're looking for like, how do I transfer this information to the teachers that I support? You'll have the recording, but you can certainly check out the professional learning page for like videos, live webinars, courses, even handouts for students. And then last but not least, there's the Newsela community. Great space to like go connect with other educators, even find shared lessons that teachers and NCEs are putting. Celeste, I see your question. Is the mark complete clear for students to see or do? Yep, and Sarah's is responding to it. That's a Google Classroom feature, right? As opposed to a Newsela feature. When you create your Google Classroom assignment, students will need to mark it as complete or submit something. Mm-hmm. If it was just a Newsela assignment, there's nothing for them to submit on Google Classroom. So you could make it a part of your routine for them to mark it as complete. That's your Google Classroom notification that like there's work on Newsela for me to review.
Oh, I see. So I guess my mistake is I'm connecting Newsela to Google Classroom with a link. When they do it, they complete the work in Newsela, but they go back, if you will, to Google Classroom to press submit, which I've been practicing. I've showed them videos and I still have 8th graders who don't turn in work, even though they did the work. They just didn't press that button. So,
right.
Thank you.
And that's optional. If you instead want to share your assignment and make it an announcement to Google Classroom, you have a Newsela assignment, click the link, follow the instructions. Then students wouldn't need to mark it as complete or submit anything in Google Classroom. you would then just check their activity in Newsela. So if that works better for you, when you're sharing an assignment to Google Classroom, you're just going to make an announcement as opposed to an assignment.
This is what a lot of our younger students are doing, because the kids, they're being sent to Seesaw, they're being sent here, they're being sent there, they're being sent all over. None of their work is actually in Google Classroom. Google Classroom is just the communication method about what they're supposed to do. So the teachers have been posting those links and to-do lists and things that they're supposed to do as a material. And then the announcements are just announcements. But if you post it as a material, they can still click on the link, but they don't have to come back and click the mark as done or turn in button, because there isn't one.
But do they then not use Google Classroom for grading? Because
They do not know.
Ah,
No.
okay. See,
For Newsela, you wouldn't be able to, you would have to go over to Newsela, you would have to do the writing grade over in Newsela, then you'd have to come over and bring it back in. And with Google Classroom, you have to create a new Google Classroom every term, because the only way to get term level grades is to either create a new classroom or to delete assignments, and you're not supposed to delete assignments.
I'd create just a new classroom.
Yep.
But okay, thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. There are links to all the resources for what we kind of viewed and checked out on the agenda. And also, Celeste, there is a link to a sample assignment with that text that we looked at. So since you were like, this is something I would actually use, there's a sample assignment with that human connection text. If you want to check it out and just see if it works for you, you could use it as is.
I love the questions you asked. I was going to ask you, can I find those again? I know you were doing those with us to put the little reactions. I've never done that with students, so I'd like to almost emulate what we did today.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me send it to you in the follow-up email. There's nothing linked on the agenda itself that connects to the Google slide presentation, but I can just pull that lesson sequence out and send it to you in case.
That would be great. I loved your questions. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And where would we find this agenda again?
Yeah, I shared the link in the chat, but let me put it there again.
Oh,
there you go. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work that you do. Good luck on Monday. Be well, be safe. Take care, everyone.